Alright, what's up, guys? I just saw Eddington, Ari Asters' new film, and was this a banger or was this a flop? It could honestly go either way. I know this has been a pretty divisive movie from what I've seen on Twitter, but I'm a huge Ari Aster fan, besides Beau is Afraid. I think that movie is honestly fucking terrible, but when you're someone like him, when you make a movie like Hereditary and Midsommar as your first two films, especially with a studio like A24, they're going to give you get a free pass, basically. So, whatever. I was excited for this film. I kind of avoided every single trailer. So, I went into this as blind as possible, and I'm very glad I did. I honestly enjoyed this movie. It is a little bit too long. It's like 2.5 hours. Could have easily been a 2-hour movie, maybe 2 hours and 10 minutes. Because by the end of it, once the climax happens, at probably around the 2-hour 10 mark, 2-hour 15 mark, the last 15 minutes of this movie just kind of drags on, almost like it has multiple endings, something like, a Lord of the Rings movie would have, or just something super long where you're just like, oh my God, where are we going now? When is this going to end? And that's not really necessarily the best thing to have happen in a movie, especially when the first half of this, it's pretty entertaining. I mean, Ari Aster is pretty much at the top of his game when it comes to directing. I think this script is borderline genius. So basically, this movie stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, and Emma Stone, and this takes place during May and June of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's a lot of events that happened during that time are involved with this movie. It takes place in New Mexico, and it's just Joaquin Phoenix, he's the sheriff, Pedro Pascal is the mayor of this small town, Eddington, in New Mexico, and they basically just have a standoff. One believes this, one believes that, and they just kind of start to have this feud going back and forth between each other. This movie is extreme, it's satirical, it's dark humor, and just showing us both sides of, the people who thought, who had their certain thoughts back then during COVID when it first started of, I don't want to wear a mask, or it's a state mandate, you have to wear a mask. You're going to save a bunch of lives, this is so contagious, and just all this different things that people thought back then. It's to the extreme. And that honestly just brings a ton of laughs along with it. Just thinking back 5 years ago, I mean, what the fuck was going on? The fact that actually happens, it almost does seem like a fever dream, along with this movie feeling the same exact way, because we did go through this. We went through all of it, and it's just so weird to think about. But this movie is very smart. Ari Aster's script, once again, is really just borderline genius. Is it a masterpiece like, Midsommar or Hereditary are? No, I might have to see it again, but it's damn near close just because of how smart he uses this setting to pretty much just say how he feels about the whole thing and just how laughable just both the sides are really when this happens. And not even with COVID, other events that were happening during this time. Beginning of June of 2020 is when the whole George Floyd incident happens. That's included in this movie. And you basically have two side characters. One is, Pedro Pascal's son. So basically, him and his friend Brian just want to get in this girl's pants that they meet at this bonfire, at this little gathering. So they pretend to become, part of the anti-racist crowd. And they start to protest with this girl about police brutality and everything that's going on with the cops. And pretend like they know what the fuck they're talking about, just because they want to get in this girl's pants. And they execute this so flawlessly, it's so fucking hilarious. And with Joaquin Phoenix in this playing Sheriff Joe Cross, he's like this frazzled weirdo who his father was a sheriff before him, but he's just very strange in this film. His character, I kind of liked his character. I liked what he did with it, but it's just he's very awkward, he's almost this cringe weirdo who really shouldn't be involved in politics, which he eventually, wants to spite Pedro Pascal's character, the mayor, Ed Garcia. So he decides to run for mayor. And it's just very, very weird, all the things that he does. He's honestly just a loser, essentially. I mean, the first thing that we see with him is him trying to detain this homeless man who keeps breaking into all these different businesses around town. This one is specifically a bar. He grabs him, he tries to take him out of the bar, wrestles him to the ground, and then he eventually gets beat by this weirdo homeless man who's just tweaking out, and he just sits there on the floor while the homeless man runs away. He slowly gets up, and it's very embarrassing. And then there's, someone filming it, and then eventually the narrative turns and saying that what he was doing to the homeless man was police brutality. And there's just there's just a lot of that in this movie. There's a lot of that twisting narratives that, even still happens today. We also have Emma Stone in this film, who kind of is sidelined a little bit. She doesn't really have that much to do. Her character is barely in it, but she plays Joe Cross's wife, and she just really gets very fed up with the stupid shit that Joe Cross does. Just all the things, and there's one specific thing that he does do that essentially could ruin her life. So she ends up just leaving him. We don't really see her ever again. Austin Butler is also in this film, kind of as this preacher guy who I think he has this like some sort of sanctuary for, certain people to escape all the things that are going on, all the politics and everything. But we do get one cool scene with Austin Butler showing up at Joe's house, just kind of randomly with his wife. And he starts to explain his whole mind and how, when he lost his father, his brain did later reset and all that. I mean, Austin Butler's great in everything. That guy's awesome. So that scene was pretty cool. And surprisingly, the man who's in about 100 movies this year already, he's barely in this film too. But I did enjoy his character kind of being the, opposite to Joaquin Phoenix's character, and him being the mayor. He wants to get reelected. So he is pretty much enforcing everything that needs to be enforced with the wearing masks and just telling Joaquin Phoenix's character, the spreadability and how wearing a mask can reduce it down to 1%, and just all this stuff that, we were fed into our brain. He's the complete opposite, and with it being Pedro Pascal, I will always love this guy, specifically for The Last of Us. I really liked him in Mandalorian, but he kind of plays the same dude in a lot of films. He's just one of those guys who's just Pedro Pascal. You know what you're going to get when you hire him to be in your movie. And is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. The guy's awesome regardless, but he does kind of play the same character, no matter what. But I actually did enjoy this movie. I know, once again, it's going to be very divisive because it is too long, could have been cut down. Not a lot necessarily happens, if you're going in expecting something crazy. There is, a lot of dialogue. It's a little slow, but, the last 30 minutes, it does get a little bit crazy. It does turn into somewhat of a bloodbath in some sort of way with just these two sides clashing in this town of Eddington. There's also another group in the end that brings this violence that was very prevalent at this time, and it's just, Ari Asters just included everything that was going on in the summer of 2020, and it's all just brought together kind of perfectly. And there are a couple scenes, more towards the end that will have your jaw on the floor. They will surprise you. They will shock you. Not just for shock value, but you're just not expecting it really. It catches you completely off guard. And that's when I really started to like the movie even more. But then the last 15 minutes, it just goes off a cliff and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? It definitely lost me on that part, but I'm still overall going to really like this movie. I think I do need to watch it again just to fully soak in everything that Ari Aster has crafted with this film, with this script. So yeah, Eddington is a crazy, satirical, hilarious look back onto the summer of 2020. It goes over the top, it's extreme, but in a lot of good ways. There's a lot of good things going on in this film. I do think the dark humor and the satire that he's going for will resonate with a lot of people and make them laugh, make them chuckle pretty frequently throughout this film. So if you're a fan of Ari Aster, go and see this film. I think you'll like it. I don't know. This movie's very divisive once again. So we'll see where you stand, but go and watch it. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. My name is Zach. Like, subscribe, comment. Later.